Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on a Saturday when you could absolutely still be in bed right now. I truly appreciate that. So I'm going to speak for a little bit, try not to bore you too much, and then after I speak for a few minutes, I'm going to open up the majority of the time block that I have with you today to answer any questions you have. And when that time comes, you can absolutely ask me anything you want. I have heard it all, mostly from first to about fifth graders. So they ask anything and everything. So I promise you can ask whatever you want. So maybe be thinking of questions as we go along. But again, thank you for being here today. With the short amount of time that I have to speak to you today, I could not possibly sum up the historical battle for Marja or the incredible legacy of our United States Marine Corps. I am comforted, though, by the fact that there are many in this room that do not need a summary, because you were and have been right there with me. You felt the incredible heat of 110-degree days and the cool water of muddy canals seep into your boots. You have felt the weight of 100 pounds of gear, ammo, and water on your back. The weight of knowing that as Marines, we were, are, and forever will be the first line of defense for our loved ones, our nation, and above all, freedom. I stand here today extremely proud of you all and the job you have done in the face of what most cannot fathom. I am more than honored to call you friends, brothers, and sisters in arms. You stand as an example for others and for what's best, not only in our nation, but to the rest of the world. A United States Marine is a beacon of hope for dark places and suffering people all around the world. Many gave the ultimate sacrifice. Many gave limbs to help people live lives free of oppression and hardship and full of democracy and prosperity. Even though there are dark days and long nights, remember what the great General Patton said. It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died, but rather we should thank God that such men lived. Be proud of who you are and what you have done for your country. We are alive today and been blessed with this opportunity at life. Don't waste it. Live a life worth living, full of meaning and purpose, and one that will make our fallen who are looking down on us proud. To the Gold and Blue Star families, active duty, retired, and all military families, I especially thank you for your service. You do not hear it enough, but we truly appreciate your sacrifice and what you go through here at home and while we are on deployments. To everyone here today, again, thank you so much for having me. Marines, I am proud to have worn the same uniform as you, and it was my honor to speak to you. Never forget that when no one else would, you raised your right hand, sacrificed, and became part of our nation's history and our Marine Corps legacy. And, officially that's what I have. Unofficially, I like to really drive that last point home with anybody, that has served, has worn the uniform, the cloth of our nation. I mean, really think about what you did. When no one made you and you didn't have to, you could have done anything else in the entire world. You could have gone and had a great time at school. You could have got a job. You could do absolutely nothing, play video games, whatever you want to do. And you took the initiative and the time and the effort to, whether you got a ride or took yourself to go to that recruiting station and to raise your right hand and be willing and pretty much write a blank check to the government to give up to your life if you needed to. I mean, that's an amazing thing. The heart of a volunteer, I truly believe there's not too many things stronger than that. So, like I said, truly be proud of what you have done, the time you served, whether it's 1 day or 20 years. Be appreciative for that opportunity that you've had. You know, I always hear people, you know, whenever you get down or you know, the motivation flees a little bit, people come up to me all the time when I'm traveling and speaking, and you know, they come up and with tears in their eyes they say, you know, I would have given anything to become a United States Marine, or you know, I would have given anything to wear the uniform of a soldier, an airman, or Coast Guardsman, or a sailor. You know, but they couldn't, whether that was physical reasons, mental reasons, or it just wasn't, you know, the right time or right thing for their life. But there are people out there that, you know, are going to reach the end of their life, and one of their biggest regrets is not serving when they could have. And so, you know, be thankful for the opportunity to be put through a little misery every once in a while, and, you know, the fact that they're keeping us in check. But again, I'm going to open up for questions and answers. You know, I didn't get too into detail on anything because I was thinking with the crowd here today and the numbers we have, hopefully I'll get some good questions and start a nice little dialogue. But again, thank you, and anybody that would like to start, please feel free. And if there are no, never mind.
What's your master's major going to be? Aren't you going to master's?
I am, yes sir, thank you for asking. So right now I am unfortunately preparing to take the GRE, which is pretty much the ACT and SAT for grad school. I had my first tutoring lesson yesterday, and yeah, I didn't leave there as confident as when I went in. So hopefully I even make it to master's school, but if I do get into the master's program, I will most likely be going out to San Diego and getting my master's in Homeland Security.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Next? Yes, sir.
I'm an artist, and I do work that's in our collection here.
Wow, thank you.
Would you be open to having a painting done of the day that the event happened that focuses not just on you, but on the Marine that you're with as well?
Absolutely. I mean, if you know, it could shed light on others as much as myself, then yes, I would be very open to that. And I am not an artist, so I'm more like a stick figure type of guy, if that. And so thanks for what you do and your time and effort. Thanks, Miss Janine. Oh, thanks, Miss Janine, wherever you are. So while we do questions and answers, all the time while I'm traveling, when people come up to me, they, you know, always ask if they can touch the medal, if there's anything written on it, on the back, so on and so forth. And so, not that I got tired of it, I thought it was awesome that people wanted to know about it, and I had never, you know, really thought that people might be curious about it. So whenever I am, you know, in a more military-friendly or stronger presence of a crowd, I like to pass it around. And so, yeah, please nobody steal it. White House will probably call you, I don't know. But yeah, have at it. Yeah, thank you. All right. And if you do steal it, just run really fast and never come back to the Marine Corps Museum. But yeah, so next question. And you know, any of the, you know, the younger generation, the younger kids, I saw some Boy Scouts here. That's amazing. Great organization. Good job, guys. And so, yeah, but Number 3, yes, sir.
I had a question, Kyle, about what was your relationship like with your fellow students while you were your first time in college?
That is a great question. Absolutely. So he asked what it was like, or what was my experience going back to school with my very much younger, but fellow classmates at school. And, you know, I was very, very pleasantly surprised. You know, I did not think, I was very excited for school. I did not think in any way, shape, or form it was going to be bad. And, you know, I went in with an open mind, and I didn't, you know, really know what to expect. But I was very surprised and very happy that when I got there, you know, yes, for the 4.5 years I was there, it was pictures all the time, and you know, I had to watch what I was doing, and I had to be smart, just because, you know, usually 18 to 21-year-olds really aren't thinking more than 24 hours ahead. So it was a little weird traveling and, you know, getting out of class on Friday, taking my book bag to the airport, traveling all weekend, getting the red eye back Sunday night, and, you know, I throw up some pictures on social media, and I'm halfway around the world, and then I walk into my 8:30 a.m. Monday morning class, and I, you know, can tell my teachers do a little double take. So, you know, it was a learning experience, but it was really great. I mean, you know, I realized after a little bit of time there that the students, I think that they, you know, of course they saw everything in the news and what was happening. They knew who I was, but at the same time, you know, my classmates helped me study. We got in study groups. I mean, I had a really great, authentic, genuine college experience. And at the end of the day, I very much got the feeling that, you know, they kind of understood everything, but at the same time, they realized that I was just there to suffer through school like them, and to go to class and to try to make good grades and earn a degree and find my place in the world, just like, you know, all of them were doing. So, you know, it turned out to be, you know, really, really great 4 years for me. And on another note with that, I was very appreciative that I went through that 4.5 years. And, you know, I joined the Marine Corps to feel like I was committing myself to a bigger purpose, and you know, I was you know, trying to do something bigger than just myself. And after getting injured and spending 3 years in the hospital, I felt like I had done that. And so and you know, with being injured and going through Walter Reed for 3 years and having all my fellow Marines and, you know, corpsmen and everybody that I was on this amazing journey with, you know, I knew I was going to still keep that connection, so I wasn't too scared to, quote, hang the uniform up, because I knew that they would always be there, a phone call away. And so I'm very thankful that I got out and went to school when I did, because, you know, the past few years trying to grow myself professionally, academically, and just as a person, I, you know, learned a lot from, you know, whether they would ask me questions, or I would hear something in class, or, you know, on the street or out in town that might not be that true. So, you know, I was never that veteran on campus that, you know, took every opportunity to share war stories. I usually just kept to myself, tried to fly under the radar. But whenever an opportunity presented itself, then I was very thankful that, you know, for every one person that might have been ignorant on the subject, I was able to be there and not only help educate them, but it also really helped, I think, for the rest of my life. You know, it gave me a good solid 4 years of keeping me in check and you know, making me realize that everybody's not gonna know everything about the military or deployments, and you can't really get frustrated with people when they say, oh, you know, thanks for your service, soldier. I'll say, oh, well, you know, love soldiers, Army's awesome, but I'm a Marine. And so, you know, like just simple things like that, you know, that I know that veterans that they might meet in the future, you know, might want to know that. And so just little instances that I was, thankful for that we could learn from each other. But, at the end of the day, my college experience, I learned a lot and met a lot of great people. And I would say the only big difference was I just traveled a lot more than everybody else. But thank you for your question. I appreciate it. Yes.
So what advice would you give to people who wanted to join, but their parents are kind of apprehensive because of things that happen in the military, like their situation?
Great question. What would I say to someone wanting to join with their parents / loved ones being apprehensive and maybe scared of that process? So, it's no secret if you do any sort of research or watch any interviews on myself and my family, that it was extremely hard for both of my parents, but Dad kind of had to step up and be strong for all of us. But it was extremely hard on my mother, just because she knew that I could have made it in college if I would have gone straight out of high school. She knew that we were still completely in Iraq, and if anything, Afghanistan was just increasing in kinetic activity. And so, she knew that if I followed through with what I had already expressed for a long time, even before I graduated high school, that I wanted to earn the title and I wanted to become a United States Marine. Sorry. The only bad thing about grenades is sometimes you lose your train of thought. It was very hard for my mother, and with all of that going on, she knew that if I did follow through with it, that there was a good chance that I would deploy, and there was also a chance that I could get injured or come home in a box. And so, for a couple months before, we really came to an agreement that this is what I wanted, that it was my life, and that at least for the foreseeable future, I did not see myself doing anything but becoming a Marine. And so, after some time, even though it was still just as hard, I finally just sat my parents down and I told them all of that. Listen, if anything happens, this is what I wanted to do. It was my decision. And so, when they really understood that I wasn't just doing it because I was scared about college, or I was just doing it for the benefits, or whatever the 100 other reasons out there are, once they realized that, then, it was kind of a very tough, but, very understandable situation. And, once I sat them down and really talked to them and told them that's what I wanted with my life and for my life, they have been supportive and had their arms around me every second since. Thank you. Did I answer that okay? All right. She approved. Next question. Yes, sir.
I'd like you to talk, if you would, please, about maintaining a positive mental attitude as you rebounded, as you went through your recovery, transitioning out of the Marines, but also recovering from your injuries. I'm really impressed by your positive attitude, and just if you could talk about that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. He wanted me to elaborate, I guess, on my positive attitude. So, oh man, how to summarize. So, I will start out by saying that I'm a firm believer in you only get so far in life on your own, and then to really become the best person you can and to achieve greatness, I truly believe that it's the people that you surround yourself with and the people you allow to take care of you, to love you, and to support you. And so, you know, from the moment I woke up in the hospital, the only thing that was not injured on me was my left ankle. And I woke up, and after 5 weeks, and you know, I was having terrible hallucinations through all the medication, and just being so disoriented from going unconscious on a 100-degree rooftop in Afghanistan and waking up over a month later with 3 inches of snow on my hospital room window at a military hospital that I didn't even know existed before I deployed. And so just through all of that, I obviously needed help, support, and reassurance. One, just because, you know, the pain was so excruciating. I was so, like I said, disoriented, and just everything combined. You know, long story short, my parents, for the entire 3, maybe 4 weeks I was in ICU, I mean, they just took shifts every single second, minute, hour of the day. They just had their hand just to kind of try to keep me in this reality. They had their hand on my left ankle. And so, you know, I'm so thankful and blessed, because I know that some do not have such a great support system and people to really, you know, love and help them and guide them. And so, you know, that was the first step. And then, you know, outside of my immediate family, the staff at Walter Reed, I always take any opportunity I can to thank them and recognize them, because, you know, in the medical world, civilian or military, obviously the providers are there because they care for you, you know, to a certain extent, and they want to make you better, and that's what they're passionate about. But the doctors at Walter Reed, I mean, they're just not doctors. They're wearing the same uniform as you. I mean, they truly love and care about you, and they're checking on your family just as much as they're checking on you. And, you know, the caseworkers and the ladies that work for the Semper Fi Fund always coming through my room, you know, do you need anything? Clothing my parents, getting my hotel rooms, you know, food, and just all of these things. So that's the support side of it. But I will tell you, so I got injured in November 2010, and then first week of March 2011 is when I got out of the immediate 3 months / ICU life-saving stages and recovery of Walter Reed. But I knew I still had at least 2.5 years there. But at the time, there was such an influx of wounded warriors at the hospital that they did not have anywhere for, I mean, they were maxed out on capacity. So they didn't really have anywhere for me to stay, along with a few other guys. And so some of the patients there, that they knew we were going to be more long-term, and they had met our families, they had met us, and they kind of trusted us, you know, not to be more on the AWOL side of things. They allowed me to go home until that September, before an amazing building, Building 62, opened up, which has a Wounded Warrior Cafe. You know, it's pretty much like an apartment complex for Wounded Warriors and their non-medical attendants and caretakers. But until September, I mean, the Navy barracks on base were full. You know, there were 2 hospital beds per every room. And at one point, when it got really bad, I was the only person without a roommate, just because I needed a 1-to-1 for a couple weeks. So every single second of the day, somebody was in there just like weirdly staring at me. And so, but yeah, it got so bad at one point that there was a couple hospital beds that were put out in the hallway. And so with all of that said, I went home, and my mom would drive me up here about every 2 weeks to get a surgery. And then I would just go back and I would do therapy at my local occupational therapy clinic. And that's what I did until September. But with all of that said, you know, a month or 2 after I got home, I had a cast on one arm, or some type of like therapy, crazy Terminator hand configuration machine that was supposed to help me do stuff better. I had that on my right hand. My left arm was still kind of bandaged up. I mean, I was doing anywhere from 1 at minimum to 2 hours a day doing wound care. So, and you know, before I had a lot of my oral and facial reconstruction, I mean, it was hard to, you know, eat, to really do anything. And so will never forget, I was sitting at the kitchen counter one night. It was about 10 o'clock, and I was eating a bowl of cereal, and it was just like such a monumental task. And it really wasn't the cereal, but I think I just stayed so strong and tried to stay so positive through my time in the hospital for my parents' sanity and strength's sake, that, you know, obviously you can't be strong and perfect all the time. And so, wow, I'm not perfect. That sounded terrible. You know, you can't be strong and perfect and great all the time. And so I don't know, I think it all just culminated to that one little quiet moment in my kitchen after everything had kind of settled down. And knowing all the time I had left in the hospital, having the frustration that I couldn't even sit there and eat like a freaking bowl of cereal, I think all of that just combined, I completely broke down. And my mom came in the kitchen. She was obviously concerned. She thought I had hit something or something was in pain. And I looked at her and I just said, like, who's gonna love me ever again? I mean, like, I'm missing an eye. Like, my mouth was, I mean, my face was pretty much completely blown off, honestly. Sorry, one second. Perfect people still have to hydrate, all right? And so, you know, I could just see the moment I said that, the devastation in her face, that her son was saying these things. And, but, you know, like all the other tough, beautiful experiences that I've had, it taught me a great lesson. And, you know, after I cried for a little bit, I sat there and thankfully, I just came to the realization at that moment that it sounds cliche, but what happened, happened. I mean, that's just it. That's life. Things happen, and no matter how much you think about it, I do too, no matter, you know, how much you might want to change something you did in the past, it's in the past, and there's just no way around that. And I came to that realization, and I realized that I was either going to spend the rest of my life sitting in this kitchen on a bar stool trying to eat this bowl of cereal, or, you know, it's time to look and start moving forward. And from that moment, I just, you know, I set my sights on a marathon, and I knew that if I crossed the finish line to a marathon, that I would really feel like I was back in it. And, you know, I went skydiving to really make, you know, just doing things and anything really that would make me feel like I'm just truly living, like I'm taking advantage of the second opportunity at life that I've been given. And so, you know, as far as a positive attitude, I mean, it's, you know, one aspect is hard to not be positive when there's always, you know, so many people just being so kind and generous and appreciative and just loving, such as yourselves. And so y'all push me to be great, my fellow Marines, and stay positive. And you know, really you know, the times that I do get down, I just remember and try to think, you know, everything's about perspective. And, you know, I started out years and years and years ago, before even the medal happened, just after being injured. I don't even remember the first time I publicly spoke, which was to a group of elementary and middle schoolers, because I was still so medicated. So I heard it went well, and so I just kind of kept going with it. And you know, now I've gone from the small, you know, local 10, 20, 30 people groups to speaking to massive companies. And so, but I think that it's gone so well and that it's kept up momentum because I just keep it super simple. I just take any lessons of perspective and hardship that I've unfortunately had to go through, but I can thankfully kind of tell people what it's like on the other side. You know, I always try to keep myself in perspective while I'm doing that. And to sit there and get down, I mean, yeah, it's okay to get down. We all have our battles, our struggles, whether that's daily, weekly, or we have something that obviously we're going to be working with for the rest of our lives. You know, and this sounds cliche also, but really think about it. I mean, it could always be much worse. You know, one, I could not even be here to try to recover or, you know, to try to eat that bowl of cereal. And, you know, I always think about almost daily, you know, if I ever even think about getting down, I recovered with quadruple amputees, with children and families. I mean, think about that. Every day you wake up not having any of your limbs, nothing. And that's the rest of your life. I mean, you know, some of these guys are early 20s. So, and you know, not only are you going through it at that point, I mean, you know, you have to think and feel for your wife and your family and, you know, all of those things. So, not that I just sit here and drill into my head, oh, it can always be worse, it can always be worse. Yeah, I know that. And I don't say it to myself in a negative way. I just almost turn it into a silver lining. And yes, it can always be worse. And that's why I'm very thankful that I'm doing as well as I am. Yes, back row.
Good morning, Kyle.
Good morning.
Good morning. Along the same lines as the previous question, I'm writing a paper about spiritual fitness and the relevancy of a combat warfighter. Could you talk about your spiritual fitness prior to deployment, during deployment, and post-deployment, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Going along with physical fitness, she asked about my spiritual fitness. And I guess I could start by saying I've always been a believer. And, you know, another thing about speaking to people that I like doing is being honest. I mean, I hope it's going to serve me well. But I'm not going to lie. I did struggle, not really struggle, more question after I got hit. Because, so I'm going to be really honest. I did question, you know, after I got hit, I felt myself bleeding out. I couldn't see or hear anything. My ears were ringing just as loudly as they are right this very moment. And I was very disoriented. And for the few seconds I had my thoughts in my head, I thought about very quickly, after the few seconds of utter confusion and being disoriented, I thought about how confused I was that it felt like someone was pouring warm water all over me. And I knew I was in Afghanistan and I knew I had been injured, but I was thinking, you know, I was on a roof. You know, what could have possibly hurt me that bad up here? Or did I get off the roof and I was on a patrol and I stepped on an IED and maybe the roof is just the last thing I can remember? But, you know, with all that said, I quickly came to the realization that, you know, that warm water was obviously my blood starting to come out of my, you know, my torn apart body. And so I quickly came to the realization that that was it. And I thought about my family and how devastated that my mother would be that I did not survive to make it home. And then, like I said, lights went out. And I didn't wake up for almost 5 weeks. And, you know, to have woken up, have been resuscitated 3 times. When I arrived at the first hospital, I was labeled PEA, which is patient expired on arrival. And, you know, 5 weeks later, I wake up in Washington, D.C., and when those lights went out, they were completely out. I mean, not, you know, I might have heard some voices or, You know, I saw a light or whatever you can even imagine. I mean, the lights went out and they did not come on until, obviously, I woke up at Walter Reed. And so, you know, I did in a healthy way question, you know, I don't know if it was, you know, is my faith not strong enough, or is that, you know, just how it goes, or, you know, all these questions. But, you know, after saying all of that, you know, I will say that, you know, when you're in that hospital bed and you've done 10 surgeries in a week and, you know, you're halfway losing your sanity and it's 3 a.m., everyone's asleep, and you're laying there thinking about not only all of that, but the rest of your life and what you have to deal with now. You know, those times and those deep, dark moments, sometimes faith is all you have. So I've held on to it, but, you know, sticking to, you know, what I said, being honest, I won't say threw me for a loop, but it's just so bizarre to feel yourself bleed out and then to think that's it. And, you know, as I got very sleepy and felt drained and tired from the blood coming out, you know, I don't know if I just was thinking in my head, I'm so tired, stay awake. And then it got to a point where I just couldn't. And so that's kind of when I, you know, threw up the peace sign, and that was it. And it was just so bizarre to have, you know, not only lights out, but I mean, your brain and body gone, and lights out for almost 5 weeks, and then just to wake up and that be my last memory. So I don't even know if I answered your question that well, but that was a great question, and one that over the past 7 years I've probably only got asked once, and that was years ago. So I do appreciate it, and hopefully I answered it kind of okay. Oh no, she's raising her hand again. Anybody else have anything? No, go ahead.
How long did you feel that your unit prepared you spiritually for battle?
I don't think, I'm thinking not in a bad way. You know, they give you the classes, they talk to you, they prepare you. But I don't think that is really the unit's responsibility. I mean, you're an adult, you might not know what you're going into, but you know you're going into harm's way, you know you're going into a combat zone, and you know that the second your feet touch the ground over there, you know, that might be it. And so, you know, throughout the deployment, the barracks that we were living in was the first unit that pushed into Marja. And the guy that slept above me for 2.5 months in SOI, School of Infantry, he was the first KIA in 3-6. He was shot right through the neck by a sniper. And he had just got out of SOI, which comes right after boot camp. So he was 18, 19, and he had been out of SOI maybe a month before he deployed. And, you know, just in the first 24 hours maybe, he was the first, you know, killed in action. So with all of that said, again, you might not know what you're getting into, but you know that you're going into a very dangerous place where bad things could happen. And you, to some extent, know the risks. And I think it is important to provide access to you know, spiritual care and people that can talk with you about those things. But at the end of the day, everybody believes how they believe, and they believe in what they want to believe, and what God they want to believe in, and what religion they want to practice. And so, you know, I think the majority of the extent is personal decision. But I think, yes, if someone needs it, the resources should be there, you know, for that spiritual care. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, we gonna fight it out, or who wants to go first? All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, so my question is, as soon as you get your master's, what is the next step? Like, what is your future plan once you get your degree?
Good question. What is my future plan? If and when, hopefully, I get my master's. Yeah, this GRE. I don't know. I don't know at all. But with time, I know I will. A lot of things that I've, maybe you could say worried about or focused very hard on over the past 5 years. Like with many things in life, it's just taken time and some experience and connections to maybe realize how, where, and how much I would enjoy fitting into a certain job position. But, when this public speaking thing started, obviously medicated up, talking to elementary school kids, getting asked all the questions that the teachers told them not to ask. I just didn't. This public speaking thing has been a beautiful ride and an amazing experience, but it's kind of been a curveball that was unexpected. And so now, I'm slowly starting to realize, talking to people individually and in groups like this, that, whether I can help one person or a million, I do have somewhat of a platform. And it's very hard and difficult, and the medal is very heavy to wear, knowing what it represents. So with that said, I'm probably just going to, along with school, focus on this aspect of my life and becoming the best professional and public speaker that I can. Wow, that's a sign. Maybe, did I turn it?
All right, I think we have a backup plan, Kyle. I think the other mic might. Let's see.
If we don't, you're in trouble, Miss Gwen.
I've been in trouble a lot of times. Test, test.
Yes, thank you. And so right now, I'm just going to focus on this and become the best professional and motivational speaker that I can and help as many people as I can. And when the time comes, whether it's a year, 20 years down the road, to get a big boy job, I, would like to do something clearly in the Homeland Security field, but I got the international relations major, and that was geared, and I'm wanting to do a master's in Homeland Security because when I was at the hospital here, I did 2 internships. One of them, for a little while, I was thinking about politics maybe, and so the first one I did was 3 months up on Capitol Hill in the House of Veteran Affairs Committee, which I'm super thankful I did because I quickly realized I am not for politics. And so, the second internship I did was I got a security clearance, and I did a 4-month internship with NCTC, which is the National Counterterrorism Center. And it was an incredible experience. And like I said, that's what geared my major and got me interested in protecting the homeland on this side of things. And so, pretty much right now where I'm at is after, I just graduated in December, and so I'm taking the next, probably through this summer, to really organize myself professionally and get everything ready so that if, when, and whatever that next step is, it's a smooth one. And so hopefully, that's the master's degree, but, either way, when it gets down the road and time for me to get a job, I obviously want to do something I love and enjoy, but, hopefully, with some time, I'll be able to kind of figure out maybe how to work a middle ground in speaking and find an employer who, understands and will work with me, and, I can do something I love, but I can also continue to speak and try to help those outside of the corporate and homeland security job world. But thank you, I appreciate it.
So Kyle, they're over Iraq and Afghanistan.
Hey, we were in boot camp, me and this guy together, so.
So over the course of Iraq and Afghanistan, we've had several Medal of Honor recipients. They do the normal circuit, Dave Letterman, all those things, and they kind of fade into not obscurity, but not so much in the limelight anymore. You, on the other hand, outside of following you on social media, you're very accessible. When Marine organizations or veteran organizations or whatever this, for instance, calls usually answer. What is it that drives you or sparks you to have a positive outreach and talk to people and share your experiences and it's not taking anything away from the other Medal of Honor recipients, but it doesn't seem like there's as much participation in that as it is with you.
Great question. So, essentially he asked, some Medal of Honor recipients or, people that come out of combat situations that might have the limelight on them, might not essentially keep up this pace or motivation of speaking to groups like this and staying connected with, not staying connected with service members, but staying really well connected to the veteran community. And that's a tough one, Nygaard. I'm gonna have to haze you a little bit after this.
What drives you essentially? That's a heavy toll, especially with school and everything else that you have. And it's overwhelmingly positive. You always have a positive impact, and I can just imagine that. For me, whenever I have to go to TAD or go for training, I'm just like, screw that. I don't want to do that.
What drives me? Two things. The first is all of you, just good people that love and support me, and just tell me very meaningful things that enrich my life, and also help me realize and understand that whether you want to say there's a reason that this happened or I was put in this position, or just kind of like I said earlier, it's just all of these experiences and every person I talk to individually and as a group just gives me that sense that I'm still living and I'm making the most out of this second opportunity that I've been given. And so that's one aspect of it. And the second aspect is I was very unsuccessfully trying to tell someone about this at lunch yesterday, so I'm probably just going to go downhill. So you might not get any of what I'm about to say, but sometimes, a lot of times I just like to sit and think, and whether that's clearing my head or thinking about what might be coming up or the next speaking event, or anything that I'm doing, I like to spend some time really gathering my thoughts. And I always kind of feel when I'm in those moments, and when I'm looking out at the world and people and having these experiences, that there's always more out there. whether that's in a traveling sense, whether that's in a spiritual sense, whether that is in a military career sense, whatever you're passionate about or whatever you're trying to tackle in life, never settle, I guess would be the best way to put it. Never settle, and just know that, there's always more out there. And the frustrating and amazing part about it is I have no idea what that is. And I have no idea what I'm going after or what I'm trying to do or, really anything. But, and also yesterday at lunch, somebody asked me, so how have you been planning everything over these past 4.5 years? And, what were you thinking when you were doing a bunch of this stuff? Did you know you wanted to do it? And, aside from the past 5 years being a complete blur, it was a blur in the best way possible because I didn't have answers to any of those questions. But at the end of the day, I would always tell myself, essentially, all right, Kyle, you have no idea what you're doing, pretty much. There's 10 million different people pulling at you, companies, people, groups, any and everything that, anybody I could speak to or anywhere I could go. And, sometimes it's very much overwhelming, and, I've really come to realize that sometimes too much of a great thing and too many options, too many good options can be more overwhelming than trying to find that one good option or that one good way to pay for yourself. So with all of that said, even if you don't know what you're doing or what you're getting into, take the time to think, gather as much information about that decision as you can. And in life, you're, probably never going to have more than, 80 to 90% certainty that what you're getting into is going to work, is going to be successful, that you're going to grow or gain something out of it. But at the end of the day, even though I didn't really know what direction I was trying to go in, I always just told myself, just work hard, be a good person, and try to stay positive. And that's got to take you somewhere. And so now I still don't have answers to any of those first questions, but here I am speaking to a room full of amazing people and service members and civilians that support us and myself. And so sometimes you don't know, or you might not be sure, and either you take a little bit of time for yourself and figure that out, or you take what you know and you dive in head first and give it 100% effort and commitment. But thanks for the question, buddy, and I will keep you updated as those questions become clear. But thank you for that. That was a great one. Yeah, man.
Good morning, Kyle. My name's Andy.
Hi, Andy.
I just wanted to thank you for your service, and I wanted to ask you a favor.
I don't have any money. I don't have any money.
You're actually already fulfilling that favor in a very small way. Listening to you speak today and following you from your injury till this point, as a retired Marine, I can learn from anybody and any Marine, and that was one of the wonderful things I loved when I got closer to retiring, just learning from the Marines that were coming behind me, because there was no sense in me taking it with me. I needed to dump it. But listening to you, I want more of what Kyle has to offer. So if in the future it presents itself that you're asked to support and defend the Constitution in another office, in another capacity in this country, I ask that you keep that option open, because as a Marine, I can really get behind what you're saying and what you're doing with your life now. The fact that you say you're uncertain at the ripe young age of 29, and I'm 51, and I'm still uncertain about what I want to do with my life.
I thought you were 29 too. That's perfect.
So if the opportunity presents itself in the future, You are so refreshing and something that I think is definitely needed in this nation of ours, to embrace your enthusiasm for life and the American people. I just wanted to ask you that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yeah, you know, obviously as Marines and, you know, myself, all about service. And kind of talking earlier about politics, I'm not assuming, but I think that's where you're going. You know, that was definitely a temporary kind of thought process. And keep in mind, for 3 months, all I did was answer the phone, get yelled at, and make binders for congressional hearings that I don't know if those binders even came in, helped out at all. But, you know, I was doing very, not meaningless tasks, but kind of always wanting more, thinking there's more. You know, I knew that those things needed to be done. And you got to start out somewhere. So I was very happy to start out on the bottom. But, you know, in the future, with time, after I, you know, figure out more of myself and how I fit into everything in this crazy world, you know, down the road, if the opportunity presents itself, I would love to try to change something for the better. I think that's just the best way to say it and summarize it right now, but I promise you that door is not completely shut.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Kyle, over here, we have a young man that'd like to ask you a question.
Oh, hey, absolutely, buddy.
What was your favorite part training in the Marine Corps?
Great question. What was my favorite part training in the Marine Corps? My machine gun was pretty cool. But my favorite part of training, I loved doing stuff on helicopters. That was very cool. But I think some of the best times I had was when I was the absolute most miserable, because you know, you're tired, you're cold, you're hungry, you're sleeping in the freezing rain or snow. You know, you haven't showered in, you know, for us in Afghanistan, 7 months. And so, you know, when you go through very tough times in your life, and, you know, when you grow up, you'll see that when you go through very hard things with good people and your friends, it brings you closer together. And so when I was in those very difficult places and those really hard things that pushed me really hard and made me want to quit, you know, the people around me and my buddies and my friends in the Marines, you know, they were going through it with me. So, you know, it very much made us a family. So, you know, fun stuff, helicopters, real stuff. I made really good friends. Thank you for your question. Did I answer it okay? Okay, good. Yep.
I learned earlier today that you have a psalm tattooed on your chest. Can you tell us what that is?
Absolutely. It's Psalms 144:1, and it says that, blessed be the Lord is my rock, who trains my hands for battle and my fingers for war. And I got that a few weeks before I deployed, because, like I said, you can't really comprehend what you're going into. And I didn't know how bad it was going to be, but the barracks that we were living in, like I said earlier, was the barracks that we took over after the unit that we relieved in Afghanistan went into country first. And while we were, you know, a week or two into their deployment, we started to see their guys come back through the barracks and start to kind of walk around. And you know, I'll never forget when I went and got this, because I absolutely knew that we were, you know, it became real as it could, until I was on the back of that helicopter being handed machine gun rounds, and, you know, was being told at 20 years old that when we land, it's an absolute guarantee that we're going to be taking contact before we even touch the ground. But I, you know, very vividly remember I was sitting outside the barracks, probably hiding from my senior Marines that were probably out on the hunt for me. But I was around the barracks, and I remember this Marine came back. He had this big, crazy back brace thing on. And, you know, I went over to him and I said, hey man, if you don't mind me asking, obviously I'm here in the barracks, I'm with 2-9. We're gonna be relieving your boys in a few months. I said, you know, what happened? And he said that he was on a roof and he got blown off of it when a rocket came in. And that's just when, I mean, that was about as real as an example as I could have been given. And so after that, you know, I went and got it, very much knowing that my hands and fingers were going to be, you know, keeping my buddies alive and hopefully keeping the enemy down while, you know, while they stayed healthy. So thank you for that question. I appreciate it. I don't know. Yep. I'm sorry?
He's asking what your favorite part of being in the Marine Corps.
Oh, my favorite part of being in the Marine Corps? How much I learned. You know, the Marine Corps, you know, we pride ourselves on trying to be professional and, you know, great Marines and you know, just learning how, as a Marine, but even more as a man, how to carry yourself, to be very polite and professional, but at the same time to, you know, always stand up for yourself and stand up for others when the situation calls for it, and to do the right thing. You know, granted, I had heard a lot of those lessons before, and you know, I tried to apply them as best as I could. But you know, when I went in the Marine Corps, it's you know, when you're in the Marine Corps every single day for 4 years or 20 years, you know, every single day you're learning how to better yourself, how to become mentally and physically tougher, and also, like I said, how to handle yourself professional and politely, but also, you know, kind of make it where people might, you know, not fear you, but respect you. So I was very thankful for all of those lessons that you can't really learn on paper or in school or in a classroom. You know, more life lessons that have to be taught to you by others that have gone before you. Thank you. That was a great one. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned the weight you felt on the medal, and because of what it represents, and you know, it seems that you've had the opportunity while in your time at Walter Reed and afterwards to interface with a lot of other wounded warriors. Do you believe that what the medal represents and the legend of the men from previous wars and whatnot has elevated it to the point where too few have been awarded to the veterans of the current wars? And I don't know if you have experiences of other cases that you know of or anything like that. If you could speak to that, what your feelings are regarding how many awardees from OIF, OEF, and other activities around the world since.
Great question. Unfortunately, I just don't know enough information to confidently give an answer as to other actions or, you know, who should have either their awards bumped up or, you know, be given awards, period, in the first place. So, you know, like I said, unfortunately, I can't hit on that, but I will say, you know, the reason that the medal is so heavy for me to wear and for other recipients is, you know, the medal doesn't only just represent, you know, the Marine Corps. It represents our military across all branches. It represents our government, our country. It represents our history and our legacy and everything we've given to get to this point. And, you know, but above all of those, to have had, you know, buddies that at 18 years old, you know, before they stepped on the IED, took the last breath they were ever going to take. And for them to have bled and lost their legs and died out on, you know, just a random, you know, patch of agricultural field in a city and a village and a town that most people don't even know where, you know, a lot of people don't even know where Afghanistan is on a map. And then, you know, they definitely don't know where Marj is and, or Helmand Province. And, you know, those men and women gave the ultimate sacrifice, and then I come back and I'm supposed to wear this medal that brings all this amazing attention and publicity and interviews and Letterman and all of these things. And yet, you know, I think back and they got absolutely nothing. They didn't even get to live the rest of their life, much less getting a medal or recognition. And so, you know, there's that aspect. And then thinking about our history in previous generations, you know, before Marines charged the beaches in the Pacific or, you know, soldiers landed at Normandy, you know, to know that you might have a 20-second chance of surviving once, you know, that door opens up or once your feet touch sand, you know, and they still, you know, jumped out and charged, even knowing that. And, you know, there's some in previous conflicts that not only lost their life and gave the ultimate sacrifice, but some of them are missing in action. And some were killed, and we don't not only know where they were killed, how they were killed, we don't even know if anybody was with them in their last moments. And so with all of these things said, it's an amazing and beautiful medal, and like I said, I'm so appreciative for the platform it's given me to be able to speak to you here today and to, you know, like I said, whether it's 1 or 1 million people or veterans, you know, the fact that I can help and it gives me a little opening to the door, I will forever be thankful for. You know, but I guess the best way to put it, you know, at the end of the day, it's not about the interviews and the social media following and all the good stuff that comes out of it. You know, I gotta, like I said, keep everything in perspective. And, you know, even though I'm thankful for all the great things that comes with it, you know, I just would like all of you to know that, you know, behind every picture or interview or great experience, you know, is someone that didn't make it home. And I feel that that is kind of ingrained into the medal. So that's why I say that it's heavy. But thank you, I appreciate it. Good?
I think it's a good time to finish.
Well, she's in charge, so we're shutting it down. But thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.